like, because I knew for like weeks and weeks before, then it was a different experience of actually it being announced. And I think between the two experiences, yes, it has begun to sunk in, and so has the sort of gravity of what I now get to do if I really want to make it, you know, the brand that I know I want to have.
So from former beauty queen to kind of queen of the runway behind the scenes, shall we say.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go for Project Runway in the first place?
I mean, I applied on a complete whim. I just figured, what do I have to lose? It's just an application. I never thought I would hear back from them. I just thought it'd be something, well, you know, at least I could have said I tried, you know. I didn't overthink it. It just, obviously as a designer, it's the kind of experience that anyone would want, and I guess I also feel relatively comfortable on camera and stuff like that, so I don't feel that nervous about that sort of thing, and I do think that that's part of it, and I don't know, it was a good challenge, that's all.
And I heard that you learned to sew only 4 months before going on the show.
Yes.
How did you do that?
Well, I had a teacher. We did very, very intense days of learning everything from relatively the basics, but also like a lot of shortcuts and more advanced skills that you probably wouldn't learn in such a short space of time. And her name is Anya Ayoung Chee, and she's from Tobago. She's fantastic. And
Rap, big up Tobago, sorry. I grew up in Tobago, had to do that,
did?
Yes.
Where in Tobago?
I grew up in Mongrace.
Okay.
Yes, so
nice.
That's just about 10 minutes from Scarborough. So
okay.
Went to school there and everything.
Nice.
So
yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, she's also a student at the University of Trinidad and Tobago's Fashion Design School, and so on many levels it was about celebrating Trinidad and Tobago, but really not that intentionally. It just flowed that way. I mean, we have so much to offer. There's so much at our fingertips, resource-wise, and it's just nice that it's been shown off at least one more time, you know, on the big stage.
I like that. So when you were there in the US and you had these cameras on you and you had to come up with these designs and this intense pressure and being critiqued by the judges, how did that feel for you? Did you actually think, I'm just this girl from Trinidad and Tobago and I am here on this world stage? What thoughts ran through your head?
I mean, it was definitely intense. I mean, regardless of, in fact, when we were producing the show, filming the show, I wasn't so aware of how many people were going to eventually see it. Like, you know, we film it in advance, so there's no sense of the bigness of the whole thing. But it was hard. I mean, I can't deny it was long. There were long days. Towards the end, we were all very emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted, and it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. And but I mean, I guess I'm very churny no matter what, and that kind of just came through in very basic ways, the way I spoke and things like that I didn't overthink. So, but being in, you know, I've lived in New York, I've lived in London, I've lived in different parts of the world, and I think that kind of helps me be not too nervous about where I'm from or the fact that it's small. Like, I don't think about all that stuff.
Just being you.
Yeah.
Just being you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So, why do you think that you were selected as the winner of Project Runway?
I do think that the judges responded to my aesthetic. They responded to the fact that it was consistent, that I have a point of view. I think as a designer, to make it in the big world of fashion, you have to have a point of view, and I do think that I have that, and that has a lot of that is to be credited to being from the Caribbean. I dress the way I made clothes that I would wear, and I think it's the clothes that most Trinidadian and Caribbean women would wear, and that comes very naturally to me, you know, and it's really nice to be rewarded for that, because sometimes we can get down on ourselves about trying to be something that not everyone recognizes, and so we tend to adopt cultures that aren't our own, and that keeps us back, you know. So it was really a big moment for me to be rewarded for being a Caribbean designer, and that they loved it. It was huge.
So, where do you go now? What's your next step? Is it kind of Anya conquers the world? What have you got plans? What's the immediate things? Or is it just a way of kind of marketing your success at the moment to try and see how you can develop the next stage?
Well, it's all of the above. I am developing my online retail at AnyaAyoungChee.com, and I'm working towards having pieces sold in the US. I'm designing a section for a carnival band next year, 2012. I'm working on a microfinance loan program for young young creatives starting with Trinidad and Tobago. I'd like for it to reach out to the Caribbean to support people who are like me and maybe don't have as many resources. And my work, I have to design a collection for Fall/Winter 2012, 2013, and it's a lot of different, just trying to keep myself in the mix on all levels. And my essential goal is to continue on the path to build an international fashion brand that's not just clothes, it's shoes, it's accessories, it's perfumes, it's a whole lifestyle brand. That's always what I've wanted, and I think Project Runway has just brought me one step closer to that.
I think you said that quite key, because obviously from as well as Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean, because I've been to Caribbean Fashion Week in Jamaica, etc. Yeah. And even though there are a lot of established designers doing other things, they haven't seemed to kind of step outside of the box to think on that kind of global scale with how they market and promote themselves. So you mentioned perfume and things like that. Yeah. There isn't anybody else that I can think of in the Caribbean doing stuff like that.
Right.
So was that something in your mindset before Project Runway, or has Project Runway given you the opportunity to embrace those other opportunities?
No, I've always wanted that from the very beginning of launching my line, which was in 2009. I knew that what I wanted was a lifestyle brand, and I knew that fashion, specifically clothing, was the first step. And once I established that, then I could branch into other areas, because I know my customer and I know she wants not just clothes. I like how I dress. I could have on the simplest thing, but I have to have amazing earrings. I have to have a big ring. I have to have things that don't necessarily.
You're kind of beating me on mine at the moment.
Yeah. It's a hard one to beat. And things like a full experience, the way that the major fashion brands are. You don't look at a fashion brand that exists now and there's nothing that you can't get from them. Sometimes you don't even sometimes merge the two, but it's wonderful to have like I said, I'm one step closer to it. It's still a huge undertaking. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication. I look at Michael Kors, for instance, and you'd think by now maybe he doesn't have to work as hard, but he works so hard, non-stop. He just launched a new store in Tokyo. It's it really humbles you, and it makes you realize that it's all down to simple, old-fashioned hard work.
Definitely. So if you had to give women tips in how they dress, obviously you said you've lived all over, you've experienced fashion, I'm sure you've seen the good, bad and the ugly as well, right? I know I've worn a few of those myself. So what tips would you give women, and again I'll come on to men because I don't know if you're going to be tapping into menswear as well. So regarding women, what are the key tips you can give them how to make the best out of themselves and their shape and their size? Because obviously Caribbean women come in all shapes, sizes, tones, etc.
Yes, absolutely. I think that and I say this knowing that I have a particular aptitude for clothes and style and so on, but I think the most essential thing is to always find your individual voice. That's what fashion is about. That's why I've always loved it. It's about individuality. When you try to, and this can go for women of unusual sizes, whether it's very, very skinny, shorter, bigger, whatever. There are very few people in the world who can just buy things off of racks and just, they're always going to look good, The majority of us will see a style and think that it will work, but it actually doesn't. So it's very important to look in the mirror and be honest about, is this working for me?
Exactly, because spandex isn't made for everybody. Let me tell you that, ladies, right now.
Exactly.